In this episode, I talked to James Davison, writer, singer-songwriter, games lover, producer, and all-round creative. He's the author of several children's books and father of 4 who are also budding writers. I started by asking James if he'd always lived in Wolverhampton.
So I was raised in Tipton, where I lived until we had our eldest daughter. So I've been living in Wolverhampton for 11 years, although Wolverhampton was very much like almost my second home when I was growing up. Like I'd go to the skate park, and we'd also the Planet nightclub. When I was growing up, they used to open it during the day for teenagers, and so me and my friends would go there. That's actually where I met my now wife. So my dad is originally from Leicester. Mum is from Walsall, Willenhall area. They, funnily enough, met at the University of Wolverhampton. So if it wasn't for Wolverhampton, I would not exist.
So if I can ask you a little bit about creativity. And obviously I got to know you through the open mics, but I'm aware that you do other things as well as singing, songwriting.
Yeah, so I've always considered myself creative, alongside skateboarding. When I was a teenager, I was in bands, but then I've always had a love for creativity because it's both a means of self-expression, but also and entertainment, obviously, and then but also, so I do have long-term mental health conditions, Tourette's being one, non-epileptic attack disorder. So in layman's terms, those are physical and verbal tics, fits and seizures, mood swings. That's the cocktail that makes me, although I'm discovering maybe there's some ADHD and autism thrown into that cocktail, but every day's a new adventure. But creativity also was, I found that to be a great comfort, whether that was me creating myself or just enjoying the creativity of others. It helped me to sort of process and work through how I was feeling, and that's very much inspired what I'm doing now. So I'm a graduate of the University of Wolverhampton myself in computer games design. I also have a master's in digital and visual communications. During my my uni studies, alongside actually like making the games, and one of the things we were encouraged to do was read a book called Values of Playing Digital Games, and it posits that all games have values that they promote to their audiences, and so that sort of started to change my thinking on how I perceived games and their impact on me. But when I initially graduated, I did start to think about exploring self-employment, and initially it was going to be, I'm going to create video games, but I had some experiences towards the end that made me question my ability to create games. But I still believed in the stories that I wanted to tell. Mindy's Journey and Spuma, my books, they both started off as game ideas that I started reciting as bedtime stories for my girls. And so because I have a songwriting background, as I said, I performed in bands and the like. That's how I found my way into writing children's books, because I would treat the stories as if they were songs. And the way that I had sort of came to that sort of realization was, so my girls demand a bedtime story every night. And then there was one night where it's just like, I just want you to go to bed. But some of the stories I'd recited so many times, I knew them off by heart. And there was one particular one, it's called I Love My Daddy. And it's like, I love my daddy, yes I do. He's very kind and funny too. And I was like, and because I was doing it like double time, I was like, oh, there's sort of a beat there. Yeah. And so then, like back and forth on the school runs, I started to think of my own stories and started reciting them as songs in my head. And then when I got to the end, I was like, oh, I guess let's write it down. And then I recited it to my daughters, and then it was Lily Rose, my eldest, who herself is a published author, as well as BBC 500 World finalist. She was the one who said, Daddy, I think you should turn it into a children's book, because she wanted to be able to share it with her friends.
Yeah.
And then I was like, but as you can probably tell, my brain is always firing in lots of different directions. So it's so some not uncommon for me to have a new idea and be like, oh, let's go explore that, whilst also trying to do.
It sounds like you've got a real passion for it. I can, in your voice, I can hear.
But yeah, I joke with my siblings. I'd be really successful if I could just focus on one thing, but that's not how my brain works.
And singing, the open mic, well, obviously that your songs talk a lot about personal stories, mental health.
Yes.
What do you get out of singing and communicating with an audience?
Yeah, so like when I was in high school, my dad bought my first guitar at the One Stop Music by the Market Square, although that's no longer there. When I was like 13, so I've been playing that since then. In high school, that was a very tumultuous time for me, as I've said. But in year 7, I had like 25% attendance. So that transition period was very stressful for me. But then it eventually did get better, because I sort of found my clique of friends. And so I had started performing with them. They were all obsessed with Green Day. And so the one day, the 2 of them had like just been jamming, and they said, "Oh, James, we got this bass. Do you want to just jump in?" And so I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm learning bass now." So I started performing with them, and then over the years, I had subsequently like performed in other bands. Like I used to do open mics before children and all that. Particularly with my band, Stop the Rain, is what we were called. We were a ska punk band, but there was only 3 of us. So there's me on guitar and vocals, my brother on drums, and then I had my friend, Mr. Phil, as I refer to him as. He would play bass and trumpet at the same time. So he had the bass in one hand, and then would just hammer and pull on with the one hand, and then do the trumpet in the other. Like when I do open mic nights, I mostly play original stuff, but some of the tracks are actually old Stop the Rain tracks. So one of them was called it's called Can't Rain All the Time. I pinched the title from The Crow, but I had wrote my own meaning behind it. I guess in a weird way, looking back at the lyrics, I was speaking about mental health then. Then it can't rain all the time. No, that will be just fine. It's like, oh yeah, now I can reflect on it. It's like, oh yeah, you were always doing this, and this was sort of. So 2025 was a very difficult year for me personally. I had 2 mental breakdowns. I was under the crisis team twice. So yeah, that was. But so since September, I've been going to Andy Mann's Club, which is a men's talking group, also based out of the Science Park. But then also that's also around that time is also when I had started writing songs again. And subsequently started performing, because there's no point in writing if I'm not going to actually perform them.
After talking about music, we went back to the books that James and his daughter had written, and telling stories dealing with mental health. He brought some in, which we had a look through together. The book's great. Yeah, they're really good, but they're wonderful stories.
Yeah, again, grounded in sort of like mental health, but done in a way, because I obviously know the importance of talking about it, but as a parent, you're like, how do I broach this subject? But that's another thing about movies, cartoons, stories, songs, creativity in general. It gives you a point of reference in order to then be able to help people understand. And so that's why I thought doing it, because if you're just presented with the data around mental health and that, it can be quite dry. So doing it in such a way that it's a narrative makes it, okay, I get that.
And this one, The Magic Bunny, is the one your daughter's written the words for. Yeah.
Yeah, so that competition, so Lily Rose is 11 now. She was 7 when she wrote it, and 8 when it came out. 9 when she was a BBC Words finalist. 10 when she went to the Palace.
Wow.
And then, as I said, last year is when she was on ITVX mini movie season 2. So
she's going far.
Yes, but then it's
That's amazing.
So Gwendolyn, my 8-year-old. Okay. So I have Lily Rose, who's 11. Gwendolyn is 8. Dorothea is 5. Iris is 4. So Gwen, she was actually shortlisted for the 500 words this most recent year. She was inspired to do that because she had saw Daddy and Lily doing their own books, and then saw Lily had been on the TV and to the Palace, and she's like, I want to do that.
How do you find Wolverhampton as a place?
As I said, I would not, literally would not exist if it was not a place. So I love Wolverhampton. Like, I'm heavily invested in the city. I've been coming here since I was a teenager, even prior to that, because of going to like Bentley Bridge and the like. Then I live here. My children go to school here. Like people can look at sometimes go around the city centre and be like, oh, it's dead. There's nothing happening in Wolverhampton. No, there's loads happening in Wolverhampton. You just need to know. Like, I think as people from Wolverhampton, we're not always the best at shouting about like how good we are and how like what things are going on, but there's loads of stuff going on. The people are great. There's loads of good people. There's loads of creativity as well here, and so that's also like a bit of a sometimes can be a bit of a frustration. Is like people like I've been through the uni, and like so I have loads of friends who've gone there and like done creative stuff, and the assumption is that if you really want to make it in the creative industries, you got to move away from Wolverhampton and like that. So me and a business friend, Gregory, he's started to hold event like monthly business events at the Slug and Lettuce. There's also business events, monthly business events at Bank. That's hosted by Tal Singh, and he's a wonderful individual as well.
I know Tal. I didn't know that there's like going on in the bank. Okay.
So you see, so there's so much you can be on top of all, try and be on top of it as much as possible, and you can still miss stuff. But like that's what we were saying, like trying to put the world. We were out setting the world to rights, as they say, and we're like, there's so much good stuff in Wolverhampton. It's just like getting the word out.
Thank you to James for that really open and honest conversation. I know from personal experience that creativity can give you a sense of purpose and connection to others, and what James said really brought that home. If you want to find out more about James, be sure to check out his social media in the description below. If you want to support this podcast, take a moment to follow on Spotify, Apple or YouTube, and share with someone else who might like to hear it. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.